So hello, everyone. I want to welcome you warmly to this workshop. So the title of that workshop is Education for Climate Coalition, Community Co-Creation for Sustainability. It's a community of practice on green education, which is facilitated by the European Commission. So my name is Trémeur Denigo. I'm French, like you can hear. I'm working in the team in charge of this initiative at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, which is, to make it short, the scientific department of the European Commission. And I will moderate today this session. I just wanted to tell you that you are all muted by default. You can, if you want, switch on your camera. And I invite you to, in that team app, you can see at the top of your screen, a button, a Q&A button. So if you want to engage, I invite you to click on that one so that you can have your say, ask your questions. Don't hesitate either to raise your hand for the next part of the meeting. It will also help us give answers in the right order to your questions. So let's start now. And I would like first to warm you, to thank you very much, Sylvia, and the European Federation of Education Employers for this invitation to join this European Educational Leadership Week. And I want also to welcome our panelists who are from the Education for Climate Coalition. So we have with us Conor Galvin, who is a researcher and also a lecturer. And he made a talk, and I will explain what it is, in the Education for Climate Coalition. By the way, he's also a member of the working group that has been set up by the European Commission on schools, sustainability education. And he will maybe say a couple of words on that. Monica Edwards-Charter, hello. You are also a researcher on various projects. You are evaluating also a lot of projects, European projects, and you are here in quality of Education for Climate coordinator of a country group, which is the Spanish country group. Welcome, Monica. And Maximilian Eisenbart is with us in quality of member of the advisory group of Education for Climate Coalition. And Max is involved in NGOs in Netherlands dealing with sustainability, Spark being one of it. Vasiliki Katikeru, hello. You're also a researcher, a PhD researcher, and you are a member of the GreenComp Community. I will explain what it is. And currently you're developing an evaluation rubric based on GreenComp, but I'm sure you will tell us more. And Eren Oguç, hello, Eren. Eren is the youngest in that group today. Eren is a school student from Turkey and is a member of our Youth Climate Lab. So hello, everyone. I will start by explaining briefly what is the Education for Climate Coalition and a bit the journey that led to its creation. And then we will have 2 rounds of questions with our panelists before being able to engage with you and answer your questions. So that's the plan. So let me share my screen. It's okay. So that's it. So let me start by the context. I think it's important for you to understand. Of course, you know very well, especially what's appearing on the left side of your screen. The European Commission is setting up a lot of EU policies for 5 years now in the frame of the European Green Deal. So basically, the objective of the EU is to become climate neutral by 2050, which means that we have to operate, of course, a major transition in terms of industry, economy, but also society, which means by definition that education will play a role. The European education area is the tool we're using also to reach these goals. You see the goals, one of these goals is green and digital transitions. And the Education for Climate Coalition precisely is a flagship initiative of the European education area. So the EU is doing a lot of initiatives on green. So I just put on that slide a series of actions. You can see also how we can support member states. There is a council recommendation that was adopted a year ago on learning for green transition and sustainable development. We're also framing competences by developing a dedicated European sustainability competence framework, which is called GreenComp. So a community of practice, but I will say, of course, more about that in a minute. We developed also working groups on various issues. One is on schools. I was saying before that Corner was part of that working group on learning for sustainability that give us the possibility to gather some expert advices and ideas and also to make some research. And obviously, we're using also financial tools to incentivize the transition towards how we can embed more sustainability within education, such as the Horizon Europe project and the Erasmus Plus project. And just I put there in bracket Teachers Academy, which is one of the latest initiatives. So that's it. So let's dig in now. We tend to or used to call our community the European participatory community to support teaching and learning for the green transition. So the key word there is participatory. And what we've been doing now for 3 years, and you have with us today community members who are with us from the very beginning, is that we are co-developing with them a community. And this is why we are constantly evolving and trying to adapt and to set up new features in order to be able to better answer their needs. This is really how we proceed and the method we're applying. And you see on that platform, of course, we have an online collaborative platform. So it's just a tool serving of course, that community, which is not limited to the tool, but you can do a lot of things. And I will say a couple of words about that in a moment. I just want to, so now I don't know how to, that's it. So the community is also hosting a dedicated community on GreenComp, which is called the GreenComp Community. Vasiliki, who is with us, is a member of that community. And I will explain also a few things about that. So basically, when you land on the Education for Climate Coalition platform, this is what you see. And I can from there explain all the type of things you can do. If you click on the first one, you're going to learn about the Education for Climate Coalition. But the first thing to do may be to understand how it works. Because, of course, you can do so many things. It's better to learn from the very beginning all the possibilities you have. Then you see maybe one of the most important door, I should say, which is the Challenge Hub. What is this? Is that it's not just a platform and a community where you can share ideas and information. The idea of school is to engage in co-creation processes. So in the Challenger, basically what you can do is that I have a question, I have an idea, I have a project, and I'm seeking support. This is where I go. Or I want to give support to the ideas and project of others. This is where I go. Okay, that's the co-creation space lab, if you want, of that community. Then you can also reach or join groups. So I was talking about the green competence, for instance, to join the GreenComp Community, which is a dedicated group on green competences. But you can also join country groups, because if we engage in English in that platform at meta level, obviously, if you want to focus more on national realities and stick to national language, you go in these country groups. We have as many groups as the members of the European education area, which means 27 countries plus a few countries, right? On Turkey, for instance, EAN is member of the Turkish group, of course. You can get news, obviously, and decide to receive a newsletter that and that I strongly advise you to do this, because it's a very good way to keep in touch with what's happening, and a lot is happening, of course, in that community. Or browse the feed as you would do in another collaborative platform. You will see all what's happening on that platform. You can access also resources. And you see that button, it's a very important one for you. If you're a new member, you click there. If you want to share about a project, an event, an idea, whatever, you share on climate education topics group, and we will promote it maybe in the bulletin, for instance, because every month we select a few community posts to give it a second push. Or you can watch talks or interviews with main actors of the climate education landscape to learn about their ideas, but also their project. Connor was a member of these talks, contributors. So I won't stop there, because I was talking about the platform, but you can do so many things, and also meeting the community members. So for instance, if today you are very intrigued and interested in joining the community, I invite you warmly to join our meetings that we do on a monthly basis. Every month we have a community cafe, and we also have a GreenComp cafe. So go on the platform, you will see all the dates of these events. And then if you're interested in joining big events, we've got two main flagship events. One is a main community celebration that we do at the end of the year that we call Education for Climate Days. The other one is that one. It's a policy forum, and it's really something that fits exactly the method and the spirit, I should say, that we are trying to convey with that community, which is to have people coming from various horizons, but also people who are coming from the policy world, who are designing, who are implementing, or who are deciding on the policies, who are meeting the people who are acting on the ground, practitioners, head of schools like you, teachers, students, all community members meeting together to try with a participatory approach to design better policies that, of course, will be more efficient. So that's it. Okay, so now let's start the conversation. So I was saying before that we will now have 2 rounds of questions. So basically, sorry, excuse me. So that you know before, the first round of question will focus on the need for a transnational community for like ours to focus on green education. So it's a very basic question. Why is it so important? And how does it contribute to the change needed in education? So we will focus first on the why we're doing that. And then we will focus on the how, wondering whether or not a community of practice might be a very good tool for to reach that objective. So let's start with the first round of questions. And I will give you the floor, Vasiliki, to start the conversation. Please, Vasiliki, floor is yours.
Thank you, Tremer. So this is a very interesting question, and to be honest, there are several components I would like to touch upon. First of all, why green? I think that understanding the priorities of the European Union and where the economy goes is very important. So we are focusing on green and digital transitions, and this develops a new citizenship paradigm, new consumer habits, a new way of being professional, a new context. So focusing on green actually makes sense towards the society we're going for. Now, about the transnational community, what is the value of the transnational community? I see 2 fronts here. First, on the leadership side, why it makes sense to develop a transnational community. If we take a step back and see how education policy has entered the landscape of the European Union, we will see that we started on 2000 with the Lisbon Treaty with a soft policy where we set milestones mainly surrounding sustainable development, and the milestones were evaluated in the member states, and it was a peer pressure mechanism. And now we have reached the level where we understand very well what we want to do and what are the problems at the local level, at the member states. And we have also empowered local stakeholders through Erasmus projects and stuff to actually understand these problems. So now it's the time to take the next step on this open method of coordination of the member states and give the keys to the local stakeholders, empower them to collaborate and give them the tools to actually make change themselves in their own environment. I will close with just a picture. I want you to, I want the participants to imagine that when I talk with a teacher and I understand they have a problem around green education, surrounding their curriculum, surrounding the implementation of their everyday life, I can join the local community, the GreenComp community, if I want to talk about competencies, the national country groups, and I can find other people I have talked with. They have the same problem in another country, or they have told me they don't have the problem and they have an interesting process that they are challenging this. So I can connect people and I can resolve problems that exist in other countries or they don't. So it's an amazing opportunity, and I think that it makes total sense to actually enable local stakeholders.
Thank you, Vasiliki. Thank you. Let's move on to Max. I fully agree with you, Vasiliki, by the way. Now it's the time for action, because at the end of the day, we know what to do. The problem is precisely to be able to do. So we need to do. Max, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Tremer, and also Vasiliki. I think Vasiliki really nicely painted the broader picture in which the coalition also operates, of course. And then especially in the end, she touched upon the tools and kind of giving it really to the people on the ground, the teachers, the students, that of course will need to deal with the changing education landscape. And I think that is really something where green education as a topic and also this transnational idea of the community and the coalition really come in, is that our education needs to change. Like the way that we've taught for the past 60 years is not sufficient enough to prepare students for the more and more complex world that is out there. We need to have a lot more of a focus on how our actions relate to the environment, to the climate, to the world around us, both in an environmental as well as in a social sense. And that asks quite a lot of both students and teachers. And I think having this community on a transnational level, because these are challenges that are not just here in the Netherlands or in Belgium or in Spain, or in Italy or in Bulgaria, but everywhere across Europe, teachers are facing these changing roles, and teachers are coming up with great ideas to do something about them. There's amazing projects being done all over Europe to address these challenges, both from teacher and student side. And I think we need kind of these success stories also of each other, and this inspiration from others to change our own practice and kind of refocus education towards the 21st century, so to say, to adapt really that role as preparing students for the world that is out there. And I think that needs to be green and that needs to be transnational. So I'm really happy that we've started building this community and also explicitly try to build it as a community where we can learn together how to embed green education. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. What education do we need for 21st century? That's a big question. Monica, please, the floor is yours.
Well, I think that I reflected on this question. Why this community? Why is this community of practice different? I think that behind us, we have a long way with hundreds and hundreds of initiatives and projects. But what is happening with education? What are the difference right now? I think that we have a lot of challenges. That some of them are old, some new. The old, I think that many educators sometimes are experiencing their feelings is about that they are working alone sometimes in the project and the initiatives. And I think that this community of practice, from the point of view of the micro environment, I think that is very useful in providing this answer to the need, this specific need of the teacher in the classroom. I think that from other perspective, from the systemic perspective, I think that this is a crucial point where we are changing our perspective, because I think that beyond the hundred of initiatives, we right now need articulation and integration of the initiatives across countries, across different levels, educational levels. We need to empower this cross-border cooperation. We need to understand the inequalities between regions, between different education systems. And also we have a lot of challenges from the point of view of the curriculum and the integration of frameworks. Because right now we have a lot of fast advances in science, in technology, in emerging technologies. And I think that from the micro view in the schools, is really a problem to integrate green competency framework with different kind of frameworks. For instance, how can we deal really with artificial intelligence, with quantum computing that is going forward to the future, and we need to articulate all these kind of frameworks in the sense of competency, in the sense of capacity building. And I think that this platform is focusing on all these kind of problems. To me, the principal points are the need of articulation and integration within the educational systems of this overall framework, of this overall policy advances in the European Union and beyond, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I very much like what you say about the fact that we should not add too much complexity to education, which is, I mean, there are so many things that the teachers are supposed to face. So we should also find ways to articulate better things, and in particular the various competence frameworks that exist. Irene, what do you think as a student?
As in, I will not tell it in complexly, because I'm just a young people, and I'm not like the others. I can just say that the nature is really important for us, and we're caring about the nature. And if you want to do something else that cares about our nature, first of all, we should do with the education. So if we implement those educational things into those climate-based things into education, and not just in the 16 years of the school life, and also in about the lifetime, we should implement these objectives to the people to make it more longer. So I cannot explain it more. I just can explain it more basic, because I'm not the professional as like the others. I'm just a usual student. But as Miyav, I believe that I want to do something for change this situation of the nature and situation of the climate. As you know, our world unfortunately goes really bad right now. And as me, as a young, I want to make something change, make something happen to make a more sustainable world and the nature. I have joined here for that, and I believe we can do it just implement all those sustainable nature objectives into the education, and educate the others will help us to make that. And as you know, everything is about education. Like if you want to make something, if you want to make some behavior, we're learning from the schools, like writing, talking, and any other else things too. So I believe as like we are learning the maths in school, which is really important, and as like the maths, we should also learn the climate, and not just the climate behavior, also we need to learn, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. So I was saying, Irene is coming from Turkey. We recently opened the country group Turkey. We have many people who are very interesting to join, and teachers, which is excellent. Irene was he's a member of the Youth Climate Lab, and they were working last time on unsustainable fashion, or sustainable fashion, of course. But and you made some recommendations. If you want to learn more about that, you can go on the platform. Connor, what's your view as an expert now involved for so many years, and also involved in actions at EU level on how to promote sustainable education, please?
Well, thanks very much for the invitation. And can I just start by saying, if anyone needed a reason for the coalition, for the platform, if anyone needed to know why it exists, you just have to listen to the last few speakers. I mean, the quality of the inputs, the quality of the conversation that people bring forward, that's what the coalition is actually all about in so many ways. Now, when we've talked about this before, I've spoken about the whole issue being of sustainability and fair transition and so on. This, to my mind, is the defining issue of our times. It's very much the issue that will bring us together and hopefully see us through the most existential challenge that we've probably ever faced as a planet. And I think that's the reason that we need these conversations. That's the reason that we need platforms like this particular one. And as you mentioned, Tremor, I'm involved in advising a working group that is policymakers who are working with teachers. It is fascinating to see the level of engagement, to see and to hear the stories from the different parts of Europe in terms of what is actually happening. It's been mentioned a few times by Monica and Max and so on about what the teachers are actually doing on the ground. It's fabulous stuff, but it's a scattered landscape. It's a landscape where, you know, one village doesn't know what's happening in the next in many regards. And that's the metaphor that I'd like to actually use in relation to the work of the Education for Climate Coalition. It's a community that brings together other communities that are working individually or in different ways in various aspects to do with sustainability, but much, much more than that. Max, I think it was, who mentioned the fact that there's a strong eco and also a strong social dimension to what we do. And the emergence of the whole discourse around the eco-social and fair transition and everything else, it's not yet established in the work of teachers, and it's not yet fully established in the work of policymakers. I think groups like this have a very, very important role to play in that regard. So you mentioned in your introduction, Tremor, that a lot is actually happening. You say there's a lot of funding going in, there's a lot going on in terms of Erasmus Plus and the various academies and the working groups and everything else. And I agree. And I'm now going to put forward my but. My but as a researcher and as someone who kind of is trying to make sense of this very, very fractured landscape is that we don't really know the extent of what's happening. We know stuff is happening, but we don't know how deep it goes. We don't know how far it reaches. So, for example, if you're involved in an Erasmus Plus Academy that's looking at sustainability, what's in it for teachers? How do the various academies reach out to the different teaching groups across Europe? How can teachers find the academies? How can teachers find the various projects? How can they find e-twinning, etc., etc.? And I think a community like ours in the Education for Climate Community Coalition is actually a very good platform to bring that knowledge to a wider group of people. So that's in many ways, I think, why we exist and why we need to exist as an overarching community. I suppose to summarize, I'd say a lot of what we do goes beyond words, and that's important. It's not just a talking space. It's very much, as you've described it, a doing space. It's a space where we come together to talk about what we're doing, to share examples, to participate in events, to become, you know, to drink digital coffee at the digital cafes. But the conversations are what are important there, and they go beyond just conversations. To my mind, they are profoundly important exercises also in democracy and also in relation to building understandings of technology and how technology is so integral to fair transitions, green transitions, and everything else. It's almost like a twin track. And this platform is a very good example of technology being used very well to assist with that kind of twin transition. So I'd say, from an academic perspective, if I can just put on my academic hat, I'd say it's fascinating to see three characteristics of this community particularly. The first is the way there's presence. People come, they speak, they listen, they engage, they argue, and that's profoundly important because that's how we learn, in and through presence for and with each other in community settings. It's about content. There's lots of ideas floating around. You look at the challenges, you look at the events, you always go away with something in your head saying, God, yeah, I must bring that to my network. I must talk about that with my students or whatever. And also profoundly, it's about the conversation. It's about the fact that we have the opportunity to sit and listen and engage respectfully one with the other. And we're doing so across all sorts of borders. And maybe in the second round, you'll be talking about the transnational nature. I think it's actually transdisciplinary, and I think it's age as well. In a sense, I'm fascinated by what Ewan has actually been saying there, and I'm really impressed by the work of the youth climate group in their area. I'm equally impressed by the kind of work that Max is doing and that Vasili's doing. It's all different, but it all connects. And that, I think, is what the Education for Climate Coalition is all about, connecting these various parts of the landscape in a way that makes it a little bit more navigable and more understandable for all of us. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Conor. You tackled transnational, transnational dimension of the community, which is what we're going to focus on now. We've got 10 minutes, but I mean, all of you already tackled a bit that topic. Just wanted to bounce on what you said, Conor. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, because it was absolutely brilliant. And I do agree that we are trying to connect the dots because there's a huge fragmentation. I just want to tell the audience that when we've started that journey, we had big conversation on focus groups, on meeting a lot of people for a few months to establish together what we call a manifesto. And the first thing that the people were telling us was exactly that. There's too much fragmentation and we need to connect the dots. So this is also what we are trying to do with that community of practice. So precisely, it's a community of practice. And we need to discuss, Conor. Fully agree with you, because a community is about people. A community is not a box, an empty box online to say we have a community. It's about people. It's about us here today. So what do we do together? How can we, with a community of practice, make that change happen? That's the big question. And of course, transnationally, because that's what we're doing. Because one could say, but we don't need you. We have things that are happening at national level, and a lot is happening at national level. So is there an added value in trying to do things beyond also borders? So I would ask Monica maybe to start.
Well, I think that connecting with the idea you say about the people, I think that a platform like this offers a sense of belonging, a sense of inspiration and motivation. It's a source that move to action. I think that the people, perhaps an educator sense, the feeling is that the community of practice is saying us that you are not alone in this fight. And I think that is very relevant because sometimes it's very difficult to find this critical mass of climate action in different environments, in different regions, because I think that there are much inequalities concerning different levels of action across Europe and beyond. I think this is one of the things that we receive as individuals, as people from the platform. From the point of view of systemic action, I think that, as you say before, we are connecting the dots. We are giving visibility to a lot of initiatives. I think that is an opportunity to put together this conversation between different stakeholders. And I think that really the platform is building this sense of bottom up to a big conversation that is moving, is moved with the people. And in that sense, the platform acts as a driver or a catalyzer of this dialogue between different countries, different regions, different people. I'm convinced that this specific platform even can influence decision makers and policies in the educational levels. I think that the platform offers a lot of resources, a lot of opportunities for capacity building and to build more climate action everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. I will just ask all of you to try to be a bit shorter, but Monica, I mean, what you said, to my view, is crucial on the capacity building process, reaching the critical mass. And as a matter of fact, we expect, and that's a super interesting exercise, by the way, that can also have an impact on the policy-making process, which is a new way of doing things, by the way, based on that participatory approach. So thank you for that, Monica. Eren, what do you think about that? Please.
First of all, can you hear me? I'm not on the way of the political issues because as everyone knows that I don't know much things about the policy and making the big schedules in it, but I can say it's a really important initiative it's an important place. Like the Youth Climate Lab is a really important, the Education for Climate is an important place. I just make a mistake. Is a really important place to coming people together, which everyone has mentioned about it. And
Eren, excuse me, if I may, tell us why you like the Youth Climate Lab. It might be interesting. What did you learn?
As if maybe as you can see, I just get excited and maybe I cannot talk some properly. But at the meantime, I love the Education for Climate because I can tell whatever I want about unsustainable climate problems, and I can do the brainstorming with myself, and also I just not in that. I also to be here to learn a lot of perspectives about the climate and the other problems about our world, and not just about the climate issues. And I came here, and I love to be here to hear the others, the people, the professionals, the professional ideas, their experiments, to learn from their experience, which is really important for me as a youth. And I'm just a 16 years old, a high school student. I'm just trying to learn from the professional, from the experimental things to make myself more improved on those subjects, on climate issues and the others. Not just, as you can see, the climate, as academically, it makes me more improved to be here.
Thank you, Eren. I'm sure, Connor, that what Eren has just said is inspiring for you about that experiential dimension, the fact that the students want to be in touch with professionals and go beyond also the borders of the school. What do you think, Connor?
Well, I agree, but I think it's a two-way conversation. There's no sense in being where I am and not hearing the voices of the young people who are profoundly invested in this whole process. It's not just us trying to solve problems for them. It's all of us trying to deal with this together. And that's why there have to be these channels where we can hear the voices of younger people. And that's one of the things I really like about the coalition. We're good at offering those sorts of opportunities, better perhaps than a lot of other associations and organizations. And just to kind of follow a little bit from that, I think the sorts of range of voices that are available to people like Eren within our conversations is also important, because we're not just transnational, we're actually transsectoral as well. And you might not realize, Eren, the fact that you are actually talking with a lot of people who are involved in policy work, even by just being at events like this. And they may not have their cameras on or whatever, but they're listening. And that's an important thing to bear in mind, because the conversations of the coalition are very broad. They bring together people from the policy world. They bring together people from, I was just actually looking earlier, from civil society. They bring together academics, and they bring together youth voices like your own. I think it's when you put those voices together that you get a kind of magic. It's not just one voice being more important than the other. And that is one of the beauties of this platform. It's a leveler. We all mess up the technologies. We all try and use our technologies in ways to communicate. And we're all learning in and through the conversations that actually result. So, Trimmer, to go back to your original point about, building the community, I think one of the important points that we perhaps should take on board when we talk about the transnational nature, and it's been touched on a bit by Monica, but perhaps I'd like to just emphasize it slightly. It's this idea that we're doing more than just building information and exchange. Yes, it's capacity building. I understand all of that, and I'm very happy to be involved in that. But it's also building a vision. It's also helping us to kind of come to a shared understanding across the entire community. as to what the challenges actually are. It's not just something that we need to deal with in Ankara or something that we need to deal with in Milan or, you know, Deep Connemara or wherever it happens to be. It's something that impacts all of us. And we actually need a shared understanding and a shared vision, because there's an awful lot of stuff out there that is dubious and that challenges the realities that we're facing in relation to the need for fair transition. And we can't ignore those. So to kind of counter those, part of the democratic response, if you like, has to my mind, has to be to gather around ideas of the eco-social, to gather around vision that will help us see a number of paths forward that are shared by industrialists, that are shared by policy people, that are shared by teachers and young people, and you know, old fogies like myself trying desperately to research to get a handle of what's actually going on in the world. So I think the beauty of this community is that it puts us all in the same boat, and it's a very fascinating ship to be sailing in.
Thank you so much. Super inspiring. Vasiliki, do you share Connor's vision? Do you embark in the same boat?
I
Please.
do, and I think the previous speakers could not have outlined better what the functionality of the community is. I don't think I have something to add on that, to be honest. I only think like I just want to explain how it has been for me, the community of practice, and maybe practically explain how what being on the same boat means for a PhD researcher. So I have two examples. First of all, when we decided that I will be representing the GreenComp community, because we are a community, so we decided it in a meeting, talking to each other. I created an idea. We have in the platform of the coalition, in the GreenComp community, everyone can create an idea. And I asked everyone from the GreenComp community to come and comment and tell me what I want to bring forward, what they want me to bring forward from the community, what the community means to them. So you can understand that indeed we are on the same boat, and this is how this vision translates into practical action within the coalition. And of course, they told me what they want me to say, and everything, all the bullet points they wanted me to address, I think they can be summarized in the next example I have to share. Because as an academic and in collaboration with the European schools, we were developing a tool, an assessment tool, an evaluation tool that would help the European schools evaluate the project of innovation they receive based on whether they align with the GreenComp framework and with the European education priorities in general. And we did that, and we realized that this is a need not only for the European schools, but pretty much all the schools may have such a need. So we brought it forward to the GreenComp community, and thank you, Tremer and Valeria, maybe she's here in the participants. I think I saw her, for providing us with a time at the GreenComp Cafe to bring this and validate the tool and do a co-creation workshop with all the participants of the community. And on top of that, we managed to find collaborators, partners, to build on what we already had done. So you can see how, and we are now talking with NGOs, with other academics in other countries that are also doing similar tools. So you can see that this is how this being on the same boat and this vision that has been articulated by the previous speakers translate concretely into everyday life within the community. That's all I have to say.
It's brilliant, Vasiliki, because I think we've got to go back to the very idea that it's about acting together and to do very concrete things together. And the example you're giving here is a very good example. And by the way, Vasiliki, because you did a workshop yesterday on that rubric, inviting people to join and to co-create with you, because you needed that feedback to create that rubric, and you got a second workshop coming. It's the right moment to do some publicity.
Okay, so when you register in the coalition, you join the GreenComp community and you enroll for March 13th. We have a second workshop. It's fun and it's interactive, and we would love to see you there and see what you have to say about integrating GreenComp into the schools. See you there.
And by the way, it's super important if in the audience we have a head of schools, because it should be the case, because it's precisely the sort of thing they are facing. It's how do we assess the quality, in a way, of a green education project, which is proposed by teachers, and you need to select, for instance, because unfortunately you don't have the resources enough to take all of them. How do you select this project based on something which is objective? That's exactly what Vasiliki is developing at the moment. So that's very handy. Thank you so much, Vasiliki. Max, we conclude by you. We are late. I just tell the audience, don't be shy, ask questions. We still have time. So bring them on the Q&A, or I leave you the floor just after Max. Max, please. To conclude.
Yes, I'll try to keep it short because I would love to hear also the questions from the audience. And I think most has been said by my fellow panelists. But I think it's really, I think what Connor really proposed, we need to build a shared vision and a shared understanding of the topic, a shared vision on what we want education to be, what role we want education to play in our societies. And I think that asks of both students, stakeholders, and educators alike a change of their view on education. And to change that view, changing views is hard. I think we all know that, but you need different perspectives on that. And I think that is really what this community can bring, is to show you these different perspectives on education, to show you different ideas, different experience, different experiments on what education can also be. And I think the community really does a great job in that, in the list of Connor, that we go beyond words. We have the presence of people here. We have the content already on the platform, and we're adding more and more by the day. And we create spaces to have these conversations. And I think only with that we can deal with this together, because we need to intergenerationally, between countries, between students and educators, with heads of school, with researchers, and together we build this community, together we sail this ship into unknown but beautiful future. So I would say please join us on that voyage. And also, if there's any questions, please, because it is about building that community. So I would love to hear some from the attendees.
Thank you so much, Max. If I may, we just bounce on what you're saying, because as a policy officer, I've never been involved in a project where serendipity was playing such an important role. You are talking about unknown seas, and that's exactly that, because in fact, we have, of course, some priorities. Basically, we want to promote green education on that transition, but we don't know exactly what can happen with that platform, because it's really based on you. And you are bringing new ideas every time. And sometimes we're going into directions we didn't even think about before. And I think it's super important to keep that in mind. So, friends, let's do something. It's 20 past. We've got 10 minutes. I will ask you to raise your hands in the audience. I think it's easier. And if you want to take the floor, we take your question directly. I see. I don't see, because I mean Teams is a bit weird today. So I see Priscilla, for instance, and Denise. You are the only one I see from the audience. I'm sorry, I can't see the other one. Do you want to ask a question directly? I think it will be the best way to proceed. So who wants to take the floor? Come on, don't be shy. Does anyone want to raise his or her hand? Priscilla, do you want to ask a question? No, you don't want Denise? Okay, so your shy. Priscilla, please. Okay. So I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry. Suzanne, do you know how to do that? Suzanne is my colleague. Or maybe I'm just trying to do something. I'm not sure I can do that.
You should be
No,
able
but it's
to
weird because
unmute yourself, Priscilla, now.
Okay, no, doesn't work. You can play with the parameters of your mic. Maybe it's that. No, it's not that. Sorry, Priscilla.
In the meantime, I do see a question in the
Please.
chat, not in the Q&A.
Okay, very good.
Where we can find the evaluation criteria. We've been just working on this in Paris yesterday.
Okay, so Vasiliki, please go ahead. And in the meantime, we try to solve the problem of Priscilla. Please, Vasiliki.
Yeah, so it's not published yet because it's still, this tool is still under validation. You can join the workshop we have on the 13th of March because we will share some things there in the co-validation session, but feel free to contact me. So if you in the chat there is my profile in the community of the coalition, so there you can find my email and contact me, and we can have a meeting, but I cannot share right now the evaluation criteria because the tool is still not published. But it's very interesting to see so many people working on this.
I think the question was coming from Fabrice, who is a member of the community. So don't hesitate.
Okay.
Also, if you want to make things open and available to everyone. Priscilla, I'm sorry. Does it work now? No? My God, Teams is against us. You need to unmute yourself by clicking on the mic normally, because you are unmuted on our side. So, but Teams is doing weird things. So, okay. No? Oop. I'm
She did
sorry about that.
share in the chat what she wanted to say, though.
Yeah, maybe.
And again, colleagues, just while we're waiting, this whole area of evaluation and sense making in relation to, what young people are learning and how they're learning, I'm all in favor of it. I think it's fascinating, and I'm again looking forward very much to seeing the tool that Vasiliki comes up with. There are parallels out there in other areas already, and there's a number of for example, teacher academies working on areas and spaces like this, and part of what they're trying to do is get a sense of how do you validate learning and how do you make sense of things. And one of the academies, it's called EduStar, they've started doing some fabulous work on micro-credentials. So, in order to kind of get a sense of how you're doing individually or how you're doing as a group, you can actually lean into these micro-credentials in a way that's not been possible previously. And it's great to see little stories like that emerging, because that's the kind of thing we can share at our cafe. We can talk about, now I'm not directly involved in that academy, but it's terrific to see that sort of work happening, and it's by talking about it. It's the kind of, oh, by the way, pass the biscuits, and here's some information about a lovely tool being developed by this group of researchers in such and such an area. Those are the sorts of conversations I think that make a difference, and rubrics I think are part of that. So the question I think has come in there now in the Tremo in the chat line.
Exactly, I see it. So I will read what you say because it's very nice. You just wanted to congratulate everyone. When we work together, we go further, and I believe we are all working for the same goal. Exactly, a better society and a healthier life on the planet. So thank you so much, Priscilla. So you're working into student assessment rubrics, and you're developing apparently a tool that will allow formative assessment with learning analytics on AI that will possibly also facilitate micro-credentials. Micro-credential is a very interesting tool that should certainly incentivize also that the transition where. Does anyone wants to react on that and has something to say that could be linked to the initiative which is led by Nucleo, because Priscilla is working at Nucleo. Thank you, Priscilla. Very good that you put your email on And don't hesitate, of course, to share on the platform, but you already did it on your project. And I've selected your post. I can tell it to you for the next newsletter, by the way. So does anyone want to react on that, on the or I don't know, Vasiliki, if you're interested, because it's linked in a way. On Max also, we had a talk once, I remember, on micro credentials. I don't know who wants to maybe say something.
Yeah, I think we're currently it's still in the back of our minds, because it's I think it will help really if we can reevaluate education away from the static. We have a 3-year bachelor program, and that leads to a specific outcome, and kind of really flexibilize education also a bit more with micro credentials. But maybe a lot more on why we're here today. I think this is a perfect example of how the coalition works, because indeed it's some of these smaller moments that bring certain topics back to mind. Because just now I heard about the micro credentials, and I was like, oh, this is something that has been on the back of my mind, and I need to re-engage with it. So Priscilla, I'll probably reach out to you, because I would be interested to hear more. And I think what we've also mentioned, kind of creating this space to talk about both this broader vision, where do we want to go, where do we want to sail the ship that we're on, but also while we're at it, and I know from experience the community cafes and the talks we have are also always quite lighthearted, and also sometimes just little anecdotes from our life. So it's always a very nice space to join. And in the same time, you do get really rich content out of it, just in these small links with other people on the platform, with a little inspiration boost, or with a completely new idea that you might want to pursue either in your own practice, or also make it into a challenge on the platform and collaborate on it with the community together. So I think this really sums up the value of having the platform and the coalition. And I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Max. So we got 2 minutes. I will finish here, and I will share with you a few information I think that will come handy following what you've just been saying, Max. Priscilla, I'm really sorry. It's unfortunate that I guess you feel frustrated because you couldn't take the floor, but precisely, that's an information session. You are all warmly invited to join the community, first thing, which means that you are invited to share all what you want to share on a written manner, if you want, on the platform, or you join, as Max was saying, the community cafe, the GreenComp Cafe. Again, we've got 2 occasions every month to meet for meeting like that, and it's totally informal. You take the floor, you share with us what you have to share with us. The first thing I want to tell you. Second thing is that during this cafe, we have a strong focus, a particular focus. We're sharing ideas, of course, on information, but we also have a focus on one dedicated project. So if you want to approach us and say, that would be interesting, for instance, to use a cafe to shed light on that particular project, we can do that. That's one of the possibilities we can do. Another thing I wanted to tell you, and precisely, Priscilla, that's what I told you before, we're selecting community post of the month, and we give it a second push when we do the newsletter to make a selection of these posts and to say, oh, Priscilla shared that post with us. And if you want to learn more about what Nucleo is doing, that's another possibility. So we have many possibilities. It's very informal. It has to be kept that way, because I go back to what Connor was saying before. It's all about discussion. We really have to meet and to share ideas, and from there to see what we could do together to have a better impact, because that's what matters at the end of the day. So I will stop here. I will thank you all, dear panelists, community members. I invite everyone to join us and to meet us in the occasion of the future cafes we're doing. And I keep, exactly, thank you, Suzanne, that's what I wanted to say. I mean, the main flagship event who is coming is the Policy Forum. The registration now open. If you become a community member, you can also contribute to a call we've launched. If you want to take a more important, a more prominent part in the panel during that day, answer the call, and please share it with your peers. We need also your backup and support there. And this is it. Thank you again, everyone. I wish you an excellent weekend. And next time I see you will be, I'm sure, in the community cafe of the Education for Climate Coalition. Bye-bye, everyone.